So I like Six Balloons a lot. It just came out on Netflix. Very simple premise. It's a woman and her brother, and brother's a heroin addict, and it's really just a day in their life, and seeing him struggle with his addiction and her try to support him throughout this tough time. Seems like their entire life is a tough time, but I loved the running time. So it's a very short movie, and I feel like this helped it feel like more of a slice of life, more of a day in the life than a typical movie with a beginning, middle, end, 3 acts, a climax, denouement. No, it just felt like a little snapshot into their lives, and it felt very naturalistic, very lived in. I love the interactions between them as brother and sister. It felt very, very believable, very relatable. You see the exhaustion and the jaded bitterness. They know all each other's tricks, so there's this kind of frustration and this kind of disillusionment with each other, but there's also the comfort where they've joked around and they've been in these patterns so many times before. You see how easy it is for them to fall back into this banter, into this back and forth, and the comfort they find even when everything's going to hell around them. They're kind of jousting back and forth and joking around. They've been doing it so long, it's very familiar and very comforting. Now, one director choice I really liked was this running motif of her repeating these mantras about her boat and her boat having rot and sinking and becoming unmanageable. And I loved how it was really drawing those parallels between the addict and the enabler, and the person who can't seem to break this toxic cycle of enabling the behavior of the addict they love. And in AA, one of the first steps is admitting your life has become unmanageable, and so many of her mantras, you see those parallels, and it showed just how there's no easy answers when it comes to deciding where to draw the line, and so much of where you being supportive crosses into being enabling. It's so hard to draw that line and decide when to stop, and especially when there's other complications, like you see the addict who's played by Dave Franco, who I thought was quite good in this. I'm always impressed with the different kind of roles he's able to pull off, and I never feel like, oh, I'm seeing Dave Franco. He's able to do some method acting and play these different roles. So he has a daughter, and you see this wrinkle where maybe you finally work up the strength to cut someone out of your life, and her whole mantra is about letting go with love. And sometimes counterintuitively, if you love someone, you've got to do something that initially hurts them a lot, and sometimes you gotta step back from them, cut them out of your life. Even if she felt like she had the strength to do that, she knows that by doing that and hurting him, she's gonna also hurt his daughter, who's completely innocent. And whether it's by him not being able to take care of her and being so strung out he can't take care of her, or her being taken away by Child Protective Services, and she sees how much there is this father-daughter bond and this love, and how a factor like that some addicts, maybe they're such bad people, they have no good qualities, and nobody else loves them, so it can be easier to walk away from them. But that's not true for a lot of addicts. They do have a lot of great qualities and a lot of great relationships and people that love them. So even if maybe you know, for the good of the person who's addicted, you want to step away, it can be so hard knowing that you stepping away, it's going to have all these other collateral effects as well. And I think for the most part, the movie did a great job not sensationalizing the issue. 2 times I think it did it a bit. The first was when they go to the pharmacy at one point, and I get that it's a bad area of town they're in, the pharmacy is, but when they go to the bathroom of the pharmacy, it's just the most disgusting, horrible, grimy bathroom you can imagine. And you looked at the pharmacy they were in, it looked very well kept. It looked the pharmacy itself looked spotless, looks like a big chain. So the idea that it looked like this bathroom hadn't been cleaned in how many years, it was just, I don't know why they had to make the bathroom so grimy. Already the scene was so gut-wrenching. And I think that some of the smaller things they did when they didn't try to sensationalize it like this made it hit that much harder. Just our protagonist, the woman, she's such a great person, so responsible, and the only reason she's kind of caught up in this little adventure they're on is because she cares so much and she wants to help her brother. And seeing the way the pharmacist just looks down at her, and just this contempt and disdain for nothing, and just for her to just, her whole life has probably done nothing but done the right thing, tried to help people, tried to help the people she loves, tried to help her brother, and for her to have to deal with someone, you know, treating her to like just a liar and a common criminal, it hit really hard. And I found that those moments hit harder than the ones they tried to make it seem like it was more than it was. One other time, when at one point there's characters and they're buying drugs, and one of them says, oh, the dealer, they had the drugs in their mouth, they got them out of their mouth. And it's like, yeah, that happens, but it felt like a couple times like that they were just trying to make it like, oh, you know, drugs are this, when you don't have to show those things. Like, yeah, it's part of it, but you hyping up those aspects of it, it just makes it seem like it takes away from the other stuff you're trying to do. And then I mentioned the daughter and how, one, it makes it so hard for her to stop enabling her brother and just adds that factor, but also it's just so tragic to watch because the daughter was young enough where she couldn't really, at an intellectual level, understand or verbalize anything that was going on, but no doubt she's picking up on so much, and so much of this ugliness was just being imprinted on her, and who knows what kind of lasting damage that was going to do. Hopefully it wouldn't do any damage at all, but most likely probably being around these environments and feeling these emotions just seeping into her, it was probably going to have such bad effects. And even the positive moments when you see the father playing with his daughter and goofing around, for me, some of those were the toughest to watch, because when you know the context that it's in and you know what's occurred just before, what's likely to occur after, seeing these fun, these playful things that should be so wonderful and should be the best parts of life, they take on this ugly tinge, and it's tough to watch. And maybe it shouldn't. Maybe you should be able to remove it from everything else and say, well, at least there's this wonderful bond, and at least they're able to goof around even in the midst of all this misery. But for me, those are some of the toughest scenes to watch. And most of the scenes with Dave Franco, for me, were tough to get through. Just, not only is he a complete mess and just keeps asking his sister for more and more, but he can't even be nice to her while he does it. He's still a brat and still arrogant and saying mean things to her. And it wasn't unbelievable, though. I could understand someone being like that, and where that behavior comes from. And then even when he starts to get positive and fun, and you see how he's trying to rope his sister into going and doing something, and she says, look, I got to get a cake for my boyfriend, it's his birthday, and he's like, nah, let's do this instead. Like, God, he's just so hateable. And this interaction where she gives in to her brother, she starts to joke around with him, you have such mixed feelings, because on the one hand you could say, oh, it's just, you know, her being weak and giving in to him, but on the other you could reframe it and you could say that's her saying, look, he's my brother, blood's thicker than water, and I don't care, and I support him, and I'd rather be, you know, screwed up in these screwed up situations with him, with someone I do love with all my heart, than having this better, more perfect life with all these people who aren't my brother, and I don't feel that bond with them. And then towards the end, I won't spoil it, but you kind of see which side I think the movie falls down on, but there are some scenes along the way where you really, mixed emotions are raised. I'll end the video there. Last thing I'll say, I was reading about this movie, and it's very interesting. The daughter was played by identical twins. So I've never heard of that being done before. I guess it makes some sense, though. You can shoot a scene, and when you have these child actors, you can shoot it twice with both of the twins, and you can see who's giving you the better reaction. And in some sense, I guess, increase your range. Like, wouldn't it stand to reason that two people are going to give you more of a range and more of a different range of emotions? And I guess maybe with child actors, there can be the problem of them getting caught just acting a certain way, and they haven't developed their ability to act yet. And that's working with identical twins. I guess that's a cool way around that. So I thought that was a neat little tidbit.